June 9th, 2017, on the Urbana-Champaign campus of the University of Illinois. It's 1:59 in the afternoon, and the sun is still high in the sky. Yingying Zhang is an international student from China who hopes to pursue a PhD at the university. She is new to the university, but is liked and respected by her program colleagues for her strong work ethic and positive attitude. But luck is not with Yingying today. She narrowly misses a bus transfer on her way to an appointment. It is bad timing. Yingying will now be late to meet an apartment rental manager. At 1:29, she sends a text. The apartment rental manager receives a text that Yingying will arrive at 2:10 p.m. A black car pulls up. The driver offers Yingying a ride. It is unknown how the driver convinces her to get in the car, but she is new to America and on her university campus in the middle of the day. She accepts the offer in good faith. Maybe she will make her appointment on time after all. At 2:30 p.m., the apartment manager texts Yingying asking if she's on her way. She's now almost half an hour late. But Yingying will never make the appointment or be seen again.
Yingying Chang's disappearance lights a fire at her university.
There was a feeling of a complete lack of safety on campus. There's a killer at large.
It will take the cooperation of campus police, the FBI, and concerned citizens to make sure that her killer is eventually caught. Nanping, China. A picturesque city in the Fujian province of China with a population of approximately 800,000.
It is surrounded by beautiful ancient stone walls.
Nearby is the famous Bui'ai mountain range. It is here that Yingying Zhang is born on December 21st, 1989. She joins her older brother Yang Yang as the second child of the family.
Her parents, Rongao Zhang and Lefang Yi, are very proud of their daughter, who grows up ambitious and creative.
She's not only an exceptional student, but also finds time to play music in a band as well.
Yingying plays guitar and was even the lead singer of a band back in China. She's extremely talented.
In 2013, Yingying graduates from Sun Yat-sen University.
She graduates near the top of her class, indicating a bright future ahead in academia.
Just 3 years later, in 2016, Yingying earns her master's degree at Peking University.
She's studious, ambitious, and incredibly hardworking. Her boyfriend also describes her as bright and fun-loving.
It seems the sky is the limit for this young intellectual. But where will she go next?
There was an interscholastic program agreement between China and the United States, and there was a faculty member at the University of Illinois whose specialty was crop research.
More specifically, crop photosynthesis and crop production, so her studies could have a massive impact in agriculture around the world.
Yingying applies and is accepted to the U of I prestigious environmental studies program as a visiting scholar.
She was very, very serious about the research. She wanted to develop it and take it home to China. And she did get accepted into this very exclusive program to work with a professor here at the University of Illinois.
With English as her second language, the challenging program will be extra difficult for Yingying, but she has never been shy about pushing her limits.
In April 2017, Yingying arrives at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign for a one-year research position as an international student.
The University of Illinois is a serious institution. Established in 1867, it is ranked number 13 in public universities and received 29 Pulitzer Prizes.
Journal entries from this early period reflect that Yingying struggles with the loneliness of leaving her life back home behind.
Yingying is incredibly close to her parents and her brother. She has a great relationship with her boyfriend back in China, and she has a good network of friends. But they're all halfway around the world.
It is so daunting to arrive in a new country with no friends or support structure. But Ying is determined to not only get by, but excel.
In her journal, she writes of the need to stay positive and even mentions dreams of earning her PhD.
Ying has a clear path for her future, and she's making it happen. She wants to become a university professor, partly because she's passionate about her work, but also so she can financially support her family. She's focused on her future.
But first things first, Ying wants to do something about her housing situation.
She came to campus in late April, early May. She was assigned to an apartment in what we would call married student housing, which is Orchard Downs in the southeast part of campus.
Ying resolves to find new housing in the hopes of expanding her social circle.
She's a go-getter. She's outgoing and so brave. She's not afraid to pick up and move across the world to a country that's culturally different. She wants to really make the most of this year, and nothing is stopping her.
She was excited about the opportunity to move away from kind of these older, and like I said, married student housing situation to her own apartment, and had made this appointment.
On the day of her disappearance, Ying is helping to store and maintain equipment used the previous day for a field study.
Because she's helpful and eager and excited for the research.
She finishes up early so she can meet in person with an apartment manager to discuss a lease for a unit on North Lincoln Avenue in Urbana. On the day of her disappearance, Ying leaves her Orchid Downs apartment and boards a bus, the first leg of her journey to Central Campus.
And the bus took her to Central Campus, where she needed to get off a bus and then get on another bus that would take her to North Lincoln.
But timing is not on Ying's side.
And unfortunately, when she got off the first bus, she just missed the connecting bus that would have taken her to North Lincoln.
She had planned it perfectly, but she just misses the second bus. It happens to all of us.
She had to find another bus, and so she walked a block down and a block north, and at the corner of Goodwin and Clark in Urbana, there was a bus stop, and she was waiting at that bus stop.
A black vehicle approaches and pulls up next to Ying.
We can see her leaning in and talking to the person that's in there, and all of a sudden she gets in the car, and the car moves out of the picture, and then of course she's never seen again.
It is believed that her kidnapper lures Ying into the car with the promise of a ride.
Ying's family says she's street smart and cautious, that she'd never get in the vehicle unless she was forced or tricked somehow.
No one knows what exactly transpires, but it's not until she reaches the unknown location that she's alerted to danger. Ying's forced into a house, and the kidnapper immediately begins to savagely attack her. She tries to fight back, but the obvious size difference between the two gives her attacker the upper hand.
She's kicking and screaming, clawing and punching. She's fighting for her life, but her attacker's over 6 feet tall, and Ying is a slight 5'4".
She is trying everything she can do to escape.
He attacks her with a baseball bat.
But her attacker doesn't just want blood.
He brutally rapes Ying.
Then this monster decides he hasn't done enough to this poor woman. He wants to end her life.
He strangles her to death.
Then he gets to work covering his tracks and destroying the evidence.
He uses a knife to dismember her body and disposes of it in pieces.
In the following days, a hunt for this promising student will commence that will mobilize the whole community.
At this point, it's a missing persons case and people are hopeful. She just moved here weeks ago. Maybe she's just exploring the city?
The hope is that with quick action, Ying can be found, but police are seriously underestimating the pure evil of the person involved.
By the time anyone is even aware she's missing, Ying's already met her brutal demise.
At this early stage, no one knows the true fate of Ying. She's just gone.
No one knows what happened to Ying, and her disappearance becomes an international panic.
How will investigators prove that this is much more than a missing person case, but a gruesome murder by a horrific monster?
And with so much about this crime that seems totally unexpected and random, Where do they even begin? Ying Chang is a promising international student at the University of Illinois.
She's in the US for a one-year research program with big plans to return to China, continue with her PhD, and eventually become a professor. She's just gotten to U of I a few weeks ago, and on this day, she's rushing to sign an apartment lease.
On June 9, 2017, she's approached at 1:59 p.m. on campus by a black vehicle while waiting for a bus.
She gets in the vehicle, and it's the last time she is ever seen.
Alive or dead.
It's now 5:00 p.m. on the day of Ying's disappearance.
Her colleagues at the university are baffled by her lack of response to texts.
She had an engagement to get together with friends on Friday evening, and she didn't appear. They became worried. They called her cell phone. They got no answer.
This isn't like Ying. She's very considerate and punctual. Why can't anyone get a hold of her?
Fearing the worst and caring deeply for their friend, they went to her apartment and found no one home there as well.
This is definitely raising some major alarm bells. They contact anyone they can think of for any sign of Ying.
They contacted her supervising professor and another advisor who was the head of the department. He contacted the university police department, and soon she was described as a missing person.
Ying's friends and colleagues move extremely quickly to notify authorities of her disappearance. It's a testament for the person she was that she's so deeply cared for, and their speedy reaction may have saved her life if this was just a missing persons case, but little did they know Ying's killer has already disposed of her body.
The police are called, and an investigation commences.
Investigators have no idea what is about to unfold, and the whole world is watching.
There's a major turnout from the student body. The whole community is determined to help discover what happened to her.
Ying's disappearance sends shockwaves throughout the campus. A young student disappears in broad daylight without a trace. It's complete panic, not just for Ying's safe return, but their own safety as well.
The story quickly makes the local news as well as news outlets in China.
You have to understand that the University of Illinois at this point in time has the highest Chinese student population in the United States.
The fact that one of their brightest international students has vanished into thin air is not a good look.
The Chinese consulate works with the American government to fast-track visiting visas for Ying's father Rong Gao, her aunt Li Gin, and boyfriend Zhao Lin Hao.
Rong Gao Zhang works as a truck driver and has never left China before.
It's heartbreaking that his first trip leaving his country is for such a devastating reason.
He tells reporters that he doesn't plan to leave the United States until he finds his daughter.
Rong Gao is a dedicated father. His feet hit American soil, and they aren't moving until he has his daughter. In an interview with the media, he tells Ying, wherever she is, to be strong. Dad is waiting for you here. How do you start an investigation when all you know is that a person is missing? You don't know from where or really any circumstances.
Luckily for investigators, the University of Illinois boasts more than 2,000 CCTV cameras, which provide video coverage of most things that happened on campus.
It's time to get to work reviewing that footage, and not an easy task.
Campus police then start looking for anything that appears to be suspicious on the cameras. And if you can imagine, there are these networks of camera. And so you have to have police officers who are willing to come in after hours, really, and sit and watch video.
It's a lot of meticulous attention to detail and focus required to sift through days of surveillance on over 2,000 cameras. But investigators finally catch a break.
A camera mounted on a parking garage across the street from where Ying went missing has what investigators need.
It shows Ying getting into a black vehicle after a brief conversation with the driver.
As soon as that occurs, it's deemed to be a kidnapping.
This elevates the case to a federal offense, which means that the federal government can prosecute the accused as opposed to the state of Illinois.
And they begin to join the University Police Department in the investigation.
The first step is to identify the make and model of the black car.
The vehicle is identified as a specific make and model known as the Saturn Astra.
There are certain models of car that are super common in America. If this had been, say, a Honda Civic, they'd be drowning in possibilities.
It would essentially become a dead end if the vehicle was a mainstream popular car.
But instead, this less ubiquitous car model is a break in the case.
They check with the records at the Department of Motor Vehicles, and they find there are only 9 Saturns of this model that are in Champaign County.
What a lucky break. 9 Saturn Astras. That is a very small pool. Ying Ying's disappearance is gaining media traction. Not only in major news headlines, but friends and acquaintances are relentlessly drawing attention to the case on Chinese social media site WeChat. They're terrified to not stay on top of the case.
For a case gaining this much attention, locally and back in China, the FBI takes the lead. They have plenty of manpower to check out each car.
So the officers in teams start interviewing the owners of all of the Saturns that are identified by those records.
The interviews don't go well. No one stands out as particularly suspicious.
Investigators have no leads and only dead ends.
Worse, without further cause for suspicion, the FBI cannot justify deeper forensic investigations into any of the black Saturn Astras.
And worst of all, if one of the people interviewed is the culprit, they have all the time in the world to go home and scrub their car clean of forensic evidence.
They've essentially just been tipped off by police. But it's not like investigators have much of a choice. They have to move fast. Their biggest fear is, what if the car leaves Illinois? The black Saturn Astra is the only clue they have to locating Ying Ying, and it could drive right out of state.
Around this time, another University of Illinois student named Emily Hogan comes forward.
Emily Hogan shares with police an experience that blows the whole case out of the water.
She tells investigators that in the past, she also was approached by a man driving a black car. He told her he was an undercover police officer.
He urged her to get in the car, but she refused.
Was a similar strategy used on Ying Ying on the afternoon of June 9th?
It's not hard to imagine that a student new to the country in broad daylight on her school's campus might get into this car, especially if the driver is claiming to be law enforcement.
Meanwhile, investigators scrub through all the footage they can find of that fateful day over and over again.
The footage seems too grainy to be any further use, until
A breakthrough. In one of the CCTV videos, it is discovered something extremely important.
A university police officer was reviewing the footage of this particular Saturn as it picked her up at the corner and slowed it down and looked in really, really slow motion. And he noticed that on the right front wheel, there was a crack in the tire hub.
It doesn't seem like much at first glance, but with only 9 Saturn Astra vehicles registered in the county, this sets our kidnapper's car apart.
If you could identify the vehicle and find the crack, you would have the car that had picked her up.
Though all of the 9 black Saturn Astra owners had already been interviewed, there is only one car with a crack on the tire rim. And that owner is Brent Christensen.
The officers who had interviewed Christensen went back out to his apartment where his vehicle was in the parking lot, and sure enough, the crack on the rim of the front tire was exactly the way it was described in the video.
It doesn't mean he was driving the vehicle when Ying Ying was abducted, or that he has anything to do with her disappearance, but police are excited for some headway.
On the strength of this discovery, Christensen is taken in for further questioning. Investigators put Brent in a police lineup, and little does he know, they have an ace up their sleeve.
Emily Hogan even picks him out of a police lineup as the man who tried to lure her into his car.
Brent Christensen has been identified as the man who impersonated a police officer and tried to lure Emily Hogan into his car. The same car that Yingying Zhang was kidnapped in.
It still doesn't prove he's responsible for her disappearance, but it does make him suspect number one.
But who is Brent Christensen?
What has he done with Yingying?
And why?
With Christensen taken in for further questioning, investigators are going to find out the answers to all these questions. But they might not like what they discover. Christensen was born on June 30th, 1989.
He had the typical aunts, uncles, and the people that he played the piano when he was a little kid, and they had video of him as he grew up, sort of the quality experiences he had in helping others, and I mean, he was a good kid. His parents had been separated, divorced for some time, had siblings. He was from northern Wisconsin, had gone to school at Madison.
In March 2011, Christensen is married.
He married a girl who was in his high school.
Michelle Zortman becomes Christensen's wife during his time in Madison County.
I think they had a good experience in Madison, and he was very highly regarded as a student. He got accepted into a doctoral program at the University of Illinois because he was really smart, very, very smart in physics.
In 2013, he graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a bachelor degree in math and physics.
Because Christian and his wife had been married for several years. They had come to the U of I from Wisconsin.
Here, Christensen earns his master's degree for physics in 2017.
He was reportedly well-liked by other students and had no discipline issues.
He's a seemingly good guy.
Which brings us up to speed on the day of Yingying's kidnapping.
Eagle-eyed investigators identify the make and model of the car that Yingying got into and pay all the registered owners in the area a visit.
Including Christian, who said all the right things to throw interviewers off the trail.
He told the officers that he was a TA in physics at U of I, and that he had been home all day, and was pretty nondescript. And so they brought him in for an interview, and he denied having any contact with her whatsoever, didn't know what they were talking about, etc. And they released him.
Christensen has no alibi for the afternoon because his wife was out of town.
He claims he doesn't remember what he was doing that afternoon, which is odd as it was less than a week ago.
Of course, it's suspicious behavior to claim no memory of a day so recent, but it's not enough for police to hold him any further.
Enter the cracked hubcap.
The damage on the vehicle matches Christensen's Saturn. It's enough to bring him in for questioning once again.
And this time, his vehicle comes along as well.
During their interview on June 15th, Christensen changes his story.
He claims that during the time Yingying was kidnapped on the afternoon of June 9th, he was either playing video games or taking a nap.
The interrogators push. They don't have clear video footage of Christensen driving the car, but they do have details.
There's no one to corroborate his version of events, but it doesn't mean he wasn't actually home.
Christensen admits he may have offered to give a ride to a student on the day of the kidnapping, but denies it is Yingying.
He says he drove a couple of blocks with her, then released her from the car when she decided she wanted to leave.
Quite a coincidence. It's an odd coincidence that Christensen goes from claiming he slept and played video games all day to admitting he picked up an international student in the same area where Yingying went missing.
Despite Christensen's ever-changing story, forensic investigators find no evidence of Yingying's presence in Christensen's car.
He certainly had a head start, making sure that was the case after his earlier interview.
However, they do note that the passenger door of his car appears to be noticeably cleaner than the rest of his vehicle.
Once again, the FBI have no choice but to release Christensen.
But the FBI aren't giving up on Christensen as a suspect so easily.
While Christensen is being questioned, FBI agents acquire written permission from another occupant of his residence for a search and seizure.
They collect computers and a cell phone, which they would later forensically investigate, finding evidence that he visited an online forum called Abduction 101.
Christensen becomes a prime suspect.
Law enforcement agencies place him under continuous surveillance on June 16th.
They may not have enough evidence to bring Christensen in yet, but they are certainly working hard to get there.
Meanwhile, investigators search for other avenues to get to Christensen.
His wife, Michelle, was out of town at the time of the kidnapping. It's a good bet that she is unaware of any ill doings that Christensen has been up to, but there's someone else who might.
They had what we would call an open marriage where each of them were seeing other people.
This other people has a name, Tara Bullis. Dating Christensen at the time of the kidnapping,
Investigators approach Tara to see if she has any additional information about their prime suspect. What she tells them breaks the case wide open.
He had said some things that about the disappearance that caused her to be very suspicious that in fact he was the individual who was responsible for the missing person.
Christensen has a dark side and would often talk to Tara about the notorious serial killer, Ted Bundy.
He really felt that he could commit the perfect crime and get away with it. And that's what he was bragging to Tara Bullis, how he could kill somebody and get away with it and do it better than Ted Bundy could.
Police ask for Tara's help. Will she wear a wire and spend time around Christensen?
It's a big ask. Wearing a wire is risky because Tara will be spending time with Christensen.
He's a monster capable of murder. It's a huge and terrifying risk.
More than that, she will be actively attempting to get a murder suspect to confess.
What will he do if he figures out her deception? Will the police be fast enough to protect her?
The police are all but certain that Christensen is responsible for the abduction of Ying Zhang. But with the police investigation stalled for lack of concrete evidence, they appeal to Tara's humanity. Will she help bring this monster to justice?
She contacted law enforcement and they brought her in for an interview, and she basically indicated the relationship she had with Brent Christensen, who of course now has been identified as the chief suspect, and she agreed to wear wire, to be outfitted with recording devices.
This is not an ideal situation for law enforcement. Bullis is a civilian, untrained in the art of undercover operations.
A lot can go wrong, but it's the best option they've got if they want to bring Christensen to justice.
Now they're connecting Tara Bullis with Christensen and tracking both of them.
Mentally disturbed individuals like Christensen often lack the capacity for remorse.
It is common for them to bask in the results of their heinous actions, and Christensen is no different.
On June 29, 2017, a memorial march is held for Ying.
They had a parade, a march, a protest march, I guess, or a inquiry march of some sort.
The event is a chance for the community to process the trauma they have been through.
This is a ritual meant for healing, so the families and friends can see that the community is behind them.
Well, who walked in the parade? Brent Christensen and Tara Bullis.
Tara is wired up for audio and recording everything Christensen says as they walk.
And you better believe that Christensen has some horrifying things to say.
Yes, he's walking in the parade and he'd been drinking. He confessed to Tara that he had killed her, that he had kidnapped her, he had taken her back to her apartment, he had hit her with a baseball bat, he had sexually assaulted her, he had stabbed her.
One detail in the recording that's particularly harrowing is the glee which he describes how hard Ying fought.
She fought him, she fought valiantly. But finally he killed her and he dismembered her body.
June 30th, 2017. the day after the memorial and just over 2 weeks after Ying was kidnapped. Brent Christensen is formally arrested and charged by police.
It's Brent's 28th birthday, the day he's arrested. And while he might not be celebrating, his arrest is a gift to many.
Seems Christensen is as stupid as he is evil. It shows tremendous arrogance and recklessness to openly confess to what he has done.
And tremendous callousness to do it at an event celebrating his victim.
Of course, this still isn't enough to convict Christensen. They have no body. They have no evidence. Just the drunken confession of a guy who already lied several times. What if he says he was just making up stories to impress Tara?
But for investigators, the confession at the march is enough to take their next step in closing the net around Christensen. And it's a big one. Ying Zhang is kidnapped in broad daylight and murdered the same day by Brent Christensen. With the selfless cooperation of Christensen's girlfriend, Tara Bullis, police put Christensen under constant surveillance.
Tara wears a wire, which is incredibly brave of her.
Tara records Christensen bragging about the murder.
Christensen is immediately arrested and taken into police custody.
This frees up law enforcement to take steps to capture this remorseless killer. They obtain a warrant to do a full forensic sweep of Christensen's dwelling.
The hope is to secure some physical evidence, something concrete to tie Brent to Ying's murder. Until now, they haven't had the ability to do a forensic sweep of his home.
After Christensen was identified and arrested, then the forensic team went to his apartment and took the place apart and examined it every way you possibly could forensically. Of course, they found Ying's blood. They found a baseball bat that had Ying's blood on it. They found evidence along the floor from the bedroom to the bathroom. So there was really very significant scientific and forensic evidence about her being in that apartment and her bodily remains having been there.
A cadaver-sniffing dog is also brought into Brent Christensen's home, and the dog did in fact detect traces of a dead body.
They obtained video footage of Christensen, going to local grocery stores or markets and buying cleaning supplies the Saturday after she was missing.
These actions support the theory that Christensen did a major cleanup after his crime.
It also explains why the passenger side door of his car was so thoroughly cleaned compared to the rest of it.
It paints a chilling picture of a calculated, remorseless killer not at all that different from Ted Bundy, a serial killer Christensen was determined to outperform.
He had dismembered her, as I indicated, and then he put body parts in garbage bags and put them in a dumpster right outside of his apartment. And then, of course, the garbage service comes and they compact the garbage that's in that dumpster, and then it goes to another station where it is compacted again.
Her remains could be compacted to a size smaller than a cell phone.
And then it's taken to a landfill in a nearby county about 35 miles away, where the remains were.
Unfortunately, the size of the landfill and the constant accumulation of trash means the likelihood of recovering any of Ying's body are close to zero.
Which is a big problem for a murder investigation. Without a body, how can you even prove a murder occurred?
It's a difficult case. There's definitely Ying's DNA and blood in Christensen's home, and a cadaver dog alerted to picking up the scent of a dead body. But it's not a guarantee that it is precisely Ying's body that the dog smelled. It's up to the prosecution to prove.
However, law enforcement officials believe they have more than enough to convict Christensen.
It's a mountain of evidence.
But Christensen's legal counsel pleads not guilty and demands a juried trial.
Prosecutors are confident in their case. But without a body, it is questionable whether they will be able to pursue a death penalty for this horrendous monster.
To the loving parents of Ying Ying and the community of the University of Illinois, the death penalty would go a long way to putting this horrific matter to rest.
It would also send a strong message to discourage other would-be murderers for trying something so brazen.
The death penalty is what the community and Ying Ying's kin feel is deserved. But without a body, it's going to be a tricky endeavor.
The federal charges were called kidnapping resulting in death. That's the primary charge.
A federal charge is critical in moving forward with the case.
And what's important about that as a federal charge is that it carries with it the possibility of a death sentence, capital punishment.
In the United States, not every state practices the death penalty, no matter how terrible the crime.
He could have been charged with murder, could have been charged with state kidnapping, could have been charged with murder, but Illinois doesn't have the death penalty. So he would not have been eligible for the death penalty under Illinois law.
It is a small step in the right direction for Ying Ying's loved ones.
They come from China, where the death penalty is much more common.
This would have been a death penalty case in China for sure, and it would have been a fast death penalty case in China, but in America, it's not the same. The family wanted the death penalty. So it became, by agreement between the state prosecutor and the federal prosecutors, it became a federal death penalty case.
On July 12, 2017, Christensen is formally indicted by a grand federal jury for kidnapping.
It is just over a month since Ying Ying's disappearance, but the long arm of the law is not known for its speediness.
It's a lengthy process to have a case certified as a death penalty case in the United States.
There is still a long way to go in the trial of Brent Christensen.
One of the things that Christensen wanted, or his lawyers wanted, was to investigate a mental health offense. And so he had psychiatrists, evaluate him as well. That also took time.
June 2019, 2 years since Christensen's horrific crime.
Christensen's trial finally begins, with his very life hanging in the balance.
So we've got Tara Bullis, we've got that video, we have the video of the car, we have all that forensic evidence. And of course, we have his own words because of the recording where he admitted that he had killed her and dismembered her body.
On June 24, 2019, the jury delivers its verdict after a 2-hour deliberation.
So the evidence against him, let's face it, was overwhelming. So the jury had no difficulty finding him guilty of the charge.
But what about the death penalty?
And of course, then that meant it moved into the death penalty phase.
It is the job of the prosecution to minimize the mitigating factors. These are circumstances that might reduce the possibility of the death penalty by creating empathy in the jury.
The investigation showed that he had gone to the counseling center at the university and reported suicidal and homicidal thoughts. He had a follow-up appointment with a psychologist and he basically indicated to them that he had handled it and he had reconciled.
These mitigating factors are important because a death penalty recommendation must be unanimous from the jury to move forward. Each mitigating factor may undermine their confidence in a unanimous death penalty verdict.
So that based on the mitigation, even though the case is so horrible that it qualifies for the death penalty, that there was sufficient mitigation to support it only took one juror to say no death penalty.
And someone did.
The jury is unable to come to a unanimous yes decision regarding the death penalty.
Instead, on July 18, 2019, Brent Christensen is sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Unsatisfying conclusion for Ying Ying's family, who will never recover their daughter's body and must wrestle with the thought that her killer lives on.
It took years for any sort of semblance of justice for Ying and her loved ones, and it's been incredibly heartbreaking for them. They're desperately trying to figure out how to continue living when their sweet daughter, sister, girlfriend, and friend is still alone out there, never to be found.
The family is basically left with nothing. They can't have a service back in China for her remains.
Ying Ying's family selflessly decides to turn their traumatic experience into something positive for the community.
And they actually established a fund that they called Ying Ying's Fund, so that there would be money to assist international students in times of crisis or distress on campus.
With the help of this organization, Ying Ying's parents can take solace in knowing that vulnerable international students will have the support they need to protect themselves.
And as for Ying Ying, she lives on in the hearts of those who knew her, and even those who didn't.
The spot where Ying Ying was picked up, there's a little garden, a little memorial garden there, and I go by it all the time. Sometimes I ride my bike by it, and so it's always on my mind.
Ying Ying Zhang was a promising student with aspirations to change the world for the better.
Instead, her life was stolen by a ruthless monster.
But with the compassion, dedication, and determination of an entire community and the FBI, Brent Christensen was hunted down like the animal he is.
And in the name of Ying Ying, he's behind bars for the rest of his life.